Greetings. My name is Kiera Wade-Warren, and I am here today to present my dissertation defense for my problem of practice, which is entitled The Hunt for Why They Leave, a qualitative multiple case study to investigate how data inform decisions to address student persistence at a public mid-sized college in Texas. Presented for Baylor University School of Education, EDD, and Learning and Organizational Change. Let's begin. Today, I will review my problem statement, the literature that I use to enhance and understand this concept, the purpose statement, the research questions addressed, the theoretical framework that I applied, and next I will talk about my methodology, the overview of my findings, and lastly, my implications, followed by a distribution plan. Across the United States, colleges have worked diligently to understand the issue of persistence. And with this, what we have found over the years is cited by Tinto in 1993 up to present day in 2017 that nearly 50% of students who enter into college do not persist on to degree completion, leaving a void in our higher education systems. Which brings me to this. Overall, only 60.2% of students nationally actually graduate from where they enter into their institution. And that rate is alarmingly even lower for the citizens of Texas, as reported by the United States Department of Education. There are numerous factors that influence these fluctuations. Institutions struggle with adapting also to the societal changes of the 21st century student. As we can see with COVID and other issues, far as cultural, political, students are different than they ever have been before. And so states are interested in how to address these issues. For one, Texas has adopted the 60 by 30 Texas plan in order to try to close in the gap of the students who are not graduating. And also other states are working to take care of this issue that has been something that has been going on for over the last century. For the literature, to understand why aren't students graduating since it's been a long problem, I personally wanted to understand what has gone on and what type of interventions have occurred. So what I decided to do was look at all of the student persistence and interventions beginning by decade, beginning all the way in 1938 by looking at seminal scholars such as William Spady, Vincent Tinto, and Wade. Here I list some of the strategies such as enrollment management, lectures, learning committees, student satisfaction are just a few things that colleges have applied to address student persistence. In present day, colleges are using learning management systems. Now, if we think about this, there are other issues. If a student does not persist through college, then that means that they do not actually graduate. So therefore, I also looked at degree completion because the two of these are inextricable. So one of the things I found was that admission standards and campus programming leads to higher engagement for students and financial aid, but still sometimes students have issues. Another issue that colleges have found is that students use their phones now more than ever to access their course materials, which leads to other things such as educational analytics, business analytics, academic analytics. And those are some things that I studied for my literature review as well. How does big data, robust data in colleges impact how leaders make decisions on their campuses, or if they use it at all? Important to my study was defining the differences between persistence and degree completion because they're jointly used within this particular POP. One, it's important to understand that persistence is understanding that a student must remain at the same institution from one year to the next, as cited by Vincent Tinto. But degree completion is looking at the number of degree completions. And this is a nationally reported number that colleges have to report since 1990. The purpose of this overall study was in the form of a case study, which was designed to explore leaders' database decisions relating to persistence at one mid-sized four-year college campus in Texas. My desire was to understand the complex phenomena of leaders, decisions, and strategies, and how they use data on their campuses in meaningful ways to strengthen student persistence, which can ultimately lead to degree completion. This study addressed and answered these particular research questions. I had one primary research question, which is, how do decision makers on a campus use data? The sub-research question number one is, in what ways have data been used to develop and implement programs and instructional initiatives that advance student retention? And my second question is, in what ways have data been used to develop program and instructional initiatives that advance degree completion? So similar questions, but one is focusing on retention and the other one is focusing on degree completion. For my particular study, I wanted to use a framework that I could apply in a myriad of ways. Miriam states that a theoretical framework affects or impacts all aspects of a study. In my case, I used the same theoretical framework to inform my data collection, my data analysis, and overall my findings. So I decided to use the data analytics model in education by Agassisti and Bowers, created in 2017 and adapted by many professionals within higher education. It is essentially a recursive data loop, meaning it's reiterative or it's repetitive. Leaders can go from a sequence of number one all the way to number seven in order to inform how they should carry out their day-to-day decisions regarding data. So when looking at the scope of persistence with data, leaders can look to see what type of collections do we have over students? How do we store it? And then at the very end, what type of integrations or actions are we doing in regards to persistence and also for degree completion? This allowed me to understand what leaders did at this particular college that I was examining, which I call Timberwoods College. In terms of methodology, I took a qualitative approach using a multiple case study. Here, I grouped all of my participants into three cases. The case number one was senior administrators, case two, mid-level administrators, and case three, college personnel. These three cases were very important for my study and made it very unique because oftentimes in higher education studies regarding data, regarding persistence, and also regarding decisions, we often hear about only one type of group on a campus. In my study, my goal was to inform others about multiple voices all at once. And what do all voices see at the same time when they are presented with the same data? How are they using that data to find those students and hunt for them? So for my site selection, I bounded my case by looking for only a Texas institution because I was curious about the state rating. And then I wanted to look at a college that granted four-year degrees so I could look over time to see what were they doing. And it had to be a public college, as the literature also informed that public colleges struggle more so with retention as compared to private colleges, as they have a different governing body. And then I also wanted one that was of considerable size, which was a mid-sized population. My participants in sampling consisted of two different sampling methods, which I think really helped this study overall. I used first purposeful sampling. I looked at the organizational chart from the college's website, and I found those individuals who worked in office that were clearly related to student persistence or something related to degree completion or graduation offices, if you will. After that, I realized I need to find more participants to truly tell me what's going on. And so therefore I obtained a gatekeeper very quickly. And this gatekeeper allowed me to find and talk to very influential members on the campus. So that created a snowball sampling method. I ended up interviewing 16 participants, and that is at the point of which I reached saturation, where I received no new information, and it was more so at that part confirming. For data collection, I interviewed my 16 participants through semi-structured interviews ranging for about 60 minutes per participant. I used archival records, which were databases of students, which the college had over 12,000 students at the time of this study. And it was very important for me to see what types of columns of data did they have, such as what schools did they attend previously before coming to this college, socioeconomic status, were they on financial aid. I wanted to know what type of columns of data informed their overall programs on this campus to help them or their instructional desires. And then also I looked at documentation such as meetings. The campus had been undergoing at the time of the study a couple of new programs, such as a coaching program and then a program also for graduation. For the analysis, I use two steps here. I use individual case analysis for each of the three cases, and then I also group them together using a cross-case thematic analysis, which kind of really enriched the study so I could compare them very, very well. For my ethical considerations, I was a professor at the college, and so I didn't work closely with any of these individuals, and because I don't work with student persistence. And I wanted to make sure that that was something that was known. I also strive to try to keep the participants in the institution private by providing both with pseudonyms, and then also the COVID-19 impacted some ways in which we were able to communicate, but I did talk to them via Zoom, and I did receive approval via IRB offices. The limitations of the study were simply the time limits and varied understandings of research questions, possibly. Sometimes participants weren't aware and could not define what exactly is persistence and what does it look like on their campus or what particular offices were. And finally, I only delimited to talking to students or to faculty and staff who were specifically working with student persistence in some regard. What I discovered was this. The things that case 1, 2, and 3 knew were quite varied. And I was very surprised that case 1 administrators were so hands-on with their students. They knew a lot about the inner workings, but they confirmed with a lot of the research said by like Fingerson in 2019 and by Lockett in 2018, who states that oftentimes senior administrators are the decision makers, so they will know more. And I found out that these individuals knew quite a bit more. As I have here in the grid, the faculty members for case 3 knew less than case 1, but also case 2, which is the mid-level administrators consisting of deans and directors, they knew information, but they only carried out information. The important aspect that I found out was in the action level. For the cross-thematic analysis, I came to 4 overall large themes, and these were very eye-opening for me as I understood more and more of what I was hearing overall. Number 1, the participants overall believed that there was insufficient communication to personnel, whether you were senior administration or whether you were a person who was in the college personnel grouping. Sometimes those individuals were not made aware of the outcomes of the data or what will come about as finding out about a situation on campus. 2, there was a complicated data storage system. The Augustin and Bowers theoretical framework that I use actually talks about how colleges should store data and who should have access, and that was an issue here because so many of the individuals who needed access to data could not truly access it. And then when they accessed it, they didn't understand it fully. 3, enrollment was more of a focus, more so than actual persistence or degree completion. And it seems as if I had more questions about enrollment, I know that the participants would have been able to answer those more than even answering the questions about persistence and degree completion. And so what was very startling is that one person says, we wear t-shirts at our school to talk about enrollment numbers, but why don't we have t-shirts to say, look at the students who graduated? Because to this participant, as they said, it's not a focus. And that was something that I found in over 11 of my participants out of the 16. Unawareness of institutional actions was my 4th theme that I found out. It kind of coincides with the institutional communication, but overall the actions could be programs. Oftentimes, if there was some program that was implemented in a particular department, sometimes other faculty or department staff, they were not aware. And so one of the things that I talk about in great detail within my POP is that colleges must democratize their data. And that is one of the things that all of the participants kind of spoke to at some regard. The findings and the major takeaways for this study are pretty great. Number 1, if you have evidence and if you have data, you have to use it. As the studies show, data is only helpful when we actually use it, and that is so important. This particular college had data, but they needed to use it not only proactively, but not only reactively, but proactively, meaning not to look back, but also to look forward. 2, colleges need clear understandings of which offices are responsible. Some of the individuals during my interviews would say that this person was responsible and this person, but that wasn't in case the office that was actually over persistence data. Next, colleges need persistence regulation, which means that you need to create institutional alignment. What are the goals for our college? Do we set a tangible goal? Is a college clear like they are about enrollment, about how many goals of students that we're going to reach? The participants named how many students that they were trying to have as far as enrollment, but how many are going to graduate? Leaders can also work to enhance instructional strategies, understand demographics on a campus as they're important, contextualize them, and increase the flow of communication to reach institutional goals. The implications by research questions. Campuses need targeted focus for using data. Campuses need to create more frequent monitoring of student progress. Faculty and staff need to be aware of programmatic changes. And data has to be used proactively, as I said before, and not retroactively. The distribution plan consists of me first meeting with the Board of Trustees, senior administration, and joint meeting with subsequent meetings with the administration, the faculty, and also the staff. I will also be presenting at these conferences and also at these publications. I would like to close by saying thank you to the Baylor University School of Education, Department of Curriculum and Instruction, Doctor of Education, EDD and Learning Organizational Change, my advisor, Dr. Pratt, EDD Writing Center, program directors, and finally the peer working groups that I participated in, and my friends and family. Thank you so much for watching this presentation.